Hello, I'm Reggie Young. I'm here with Vlad from Azon Vids. Vlad, if you could take a second to explain a little bit about who you are and how you got started.
Hey guys, my name is Vlad Alexander with Ecom Vids. I'm a creative director and creative entrepreneur. So we started our journey on Amazon in about 2017. Started as a seller initially and built a small brand in the baby category. Then my wife and I we realized that we have a lot more enjoyment out of creating content for what we were doing. So we made a pivot into a media agency, being a creatives. And one of the reasons why is because in 2011, I graduated with a degree in film and video from UT Arlington. And shortly after, I was doing all kinds of freelance gigs and all kinds of work as a cinematographer, as assistant, on a lot of commercial productions for MTV, for Kellogg's, for some national spots. And, I had a lot of fun doing that. And so, with sort of dabbling with Amazon, allowed me to find everything I love about film and everything I love about business and combine it together. So, this is how I end up here.
Excellent. Yeah, I didn't know that you did production for Kellogg and MTV. That's really really cool. So if I could, I'll mention to my audience here a little bit about my experience working with you guys and how that worked out. So I found you guys at but I believe when you first got started, and it was probably pretty early on into my journey as a seller. Uh, Back then, it was like you had mentioned before, is that Facebook groups were the way of reaching customers, especially back then, especially Amazon customers. Um, and you and your team, your wife, and I think it was just you and your wife at the time, right? I believe it was just you two starting on kind of grinding it out. Shot me a DM because I was on a Facebook group like, hey, we do photo and video, and I looked at like all the options out there. I was like, I don't really know. And I saw some of the samples you guys had created for other sellers, and I was like, this looks like high level quality, like super high level quality. So I decided to go for it. You guys had made 4 of my videos to date. And each video you guys make have been by far the highest quality videos that I have. And I wanted to mention to everyone listening, people who are part of my podcast knew that I sold my business. Well, all my best performing products, most of them came from videos that you guys created, especially the business that I sold. So I feel like I owe in part my success and me having exited my first business to you guys. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. Um, and like again, the level of professional quality that you guys have is, I really think, next level. We'll link down below into to your website so people can go and check out your portfolio. But it is extremely high quality. What advice do you have for new sellers getting started who may be on a smaller end budget? We'll talk about the higher end budget, but for people who are maybe trying to just get professional quality video together, what recommendations, or like whether it's shooting style tips or ways to think about creating a production on a product, what tips and strategies do you have for someone kind of first starting out on their first video?
Reggie, thank you so much for your words of appreciation. We're actually sincerely happy that the videos that we've produced for you allowed you this, success. And this is our, I would say, best praise for what we do is when we hear these stories of success that entrepreneurs scale their business, sold business, or exited, with high profits due to some of these pieces of marketing content that we produced. So that's the highest praise. What we do isn't only about quality, but most of it is about result. So this is great. There are a lot to say technically and logically about video marketing and what we do, but some of the simple things that I would say is that think of videos, photos, any piece of marketing that you have for your business as an outfit. So your brand is like a person, right? And so the content, the videos that you show, they have to match the setting, right? So, like, for example, if you're a person, right, and you go to a board of directors meeting, you probably want to wear a suit, look presentable. If you go to the beach, wear shorts. What do I mean by that? It's pretty simple. So, like, if you were doing a spot for like a connected TV, you probably wanted to look like a TV style ad, right? So you probably want to invest money, hire a good agency. If you advertising on TikTok, for example, a great UGC shot on the phone would suffice. So like you don't have to shell out money necessarily. So I would say for anybody who starts, just be mindful of your ad placement. So you don't have to spend a ton of money unnecessarily. And I would say that, so for example, also as far as the Amazon in itself, right? Since we're producing bulk of our content for Amazon specifically. So on Amazon listing, Amazon is basically a catalog of things, right? So on the listing itself, the customers, they want to know basically your features and everything about your product. They don't necessarily go to the listing to watch like a brand story. They're there, they're a warm audience, they're ready to purchase. They just want to make sure that your product is fit for their needs. And the more technical the product or the more specific the product is, in other words, it's not something mainstream. It's not like a silicone spatula or whatever. It's something that maybe even in a higher price range, a good product video is a must. This is where client has, or the customer has, an opportunity to sort of feel and see and experience your product without physically holding it in their hands. So give it to them. Make that video about the product. Don't necessarily spend time on storytelling. Make the video short. Per Amazon, people are willing to watch about 30 seconds. You don't have to make a video a minute. In fact, sometimes it comes down to, our clients come and say, we need 1 minute video, but their product may not have too many features. It may be, one trick pony, like it does this one thing really well. And so there's no need to put a 60-second video and spend all this money on production and concepts and things like that. Like 20 to 30 seconds will suffice. So yeah, but I would say that anything outside of Amazon listing, yeah, you can start adding layers of story. You can start adding something very interesting to attract people and bring that external traffic onto the listing. Basically, start in your funnel, make that older or cooler audience turn into warm, get them to click, right? So anything on Amazon, I would say too. So tip number 2 would be about the construction of the video, that formula, right? What's the sell-in video looks like. Well, people have very short span. I would even say on average, we used to produce like 1 minute long videos. When we started, some of them were up to 90 seconds long. Right now, average video we produce is 45 seconds. And the people are willing to spend only so much time. So on a listing, make sure in first 6 seconds, you explain what your product is and what problem it solves for the customer. That's what they're there to see, So first 6 seconds is crucial. And I would always have first shot showing product in action. Like if the product does several things and has several features, show the main one. Show that main feature the first in the first shot. Then second shot, you can show the problem, right? On a third shot, you can show that product resolving the problem. And then after that, the rest of the video, that's when you can dive in and talk about each specific feature and benefit for the customer, right? And then wrap up with your nice logo at the end. So that would be anatomy of a video that, in my opinion, would sell. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else, Reggie, that you want to know?
Yeah. Oh, I just wanted to circle back and kind of mentioned, I think a lot of people discount how hard it is to find a good videographer. My experience, I've hired a good amount of videographers, e-commerce, non-e-commerce related, and a lot of videographer services, their scope of understanding is normally just really condensed down to the cinematography of things. But I like the advice that you gave, right? You started talking about, well, what should the first few seconds look like? What should the ad placements be? The background, all these different things. A lot of people don't get right, and it's a lot for new sellers to think about, and even experienced sellers. And one thing I loved about when I was working with you guys early on is I was learning that process for myself. So at first I was like, oh, here's my title and bullets type of thing. And then over time, like actually, well, I want certain shots and how do I create them? And I realized looking back, is you guys already had the wherewithal, the understanding of getting those shots. How wide should those shots be for each one? Should it be up close? Should it be further back? These things that a lot of people who've never done video before, or maybe only done it once or twice, don't think about. So I think it's really important to really think through, like you said, the ad placement, like what's the customer avatar? Does the model match that person, the scene, the background, what they're wearing, the lighting? Does a shot make sense? Is it up close? And I really love that advice you gave about making it, just because everyone says everything needs to be a minute, not making it minute, making it exactly for what's needed on the platform it's needed for 45 seconds or less. I think it's just excellent, excellent advice. And I love that you even said UGC content, right? That user generated content still performs well, and that has its placement. But then also, I kind of to mirror what you're saying, I think you also need that high level quality production as well too, because a lot of people are obviously that the TikTok style performs well, but in the most competitive marketplace in the world, Amazon.com, you really want to set yourself apart. And that's one thing I was able to do with your guys' service literally years ago, is have that. I feel like TV, I would literally call it TV level quality production at your fingertips that wasn't really available, especially back then and especially now. Uh, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is um, how do you structure like any kind of, because you could have video, but what about like music? What about like 3D animations, transitions? What kind of things are you thinking about as a videographer, as a video service provider? What what kind of problems are you facing, or things that clients normally either don't do right, and how do you kind of solve that?
Well, I want to preface that with saying that you can solve many problems by having the right budget.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, so I would say that many people outside of creative industry think of creatives as these painters, videographers that are creative because they create something artistic. Well, I would say that big part of being creative is a creative problem solving, and that's huge. So to answer your question, um, one of the great rules that I learned in college was, in film program, was that everything that you include in the video, it has to serve the greater purpose. Basically, as an artist, you have to be able to explain, like, why did you use this soundtrack? Why did you use this graphics? Does it serve the greater purpose? And so when we talk to the clients, some clients are interested in adding graphics, and we can, totally do it. Like when we did a series of ads for robotic vacuum cleaners, the Roomba style, uh, client there was interested in basically having an immersive experience for the shopper, where you basically had like a perspective, a point of view of the dust particle that you were sucked in, and you went through all the filters and ins and outs of the vacuum cleaner. And so that really served purpose. It was cool, it was engaging, and yeah, it was interesting, and it served the purpose of showing the internal parts of what's included in that piece of equipment.
Mhm.
One other tip I will give you is that um, you need to keep the audience captive in these videos, right? So I would say that in our collaborations with many brands, we discovered that having piece of graphics And it doesn't have to be like heavy 3D render or something complicated. It could be smaller things as well. But anytime you break up visual pattern in the video, that is very helpful to keep your viewer captive. Because let's say when you put the music soundtrack, and it may be monotonous. If you don't have a voiceover, it may be monotonous, and it's just like cut after cut. At some point, people will just like, okay, I got the idea, and they turn it off, maybe without even discovering the best feature of your product. But if you do some sort of transition, and I would say place that fifth, sixth second for the listing video, right? Because again, listing video audience is warmer. They will allow you 6 to 8 seconds, uh, basically, of the introduction. So fifth, sixth second, put something. If you have 3D graphic render, great. Put that, break up the pattern of lifestyle, switch them up. They will stay a little bit longer and bring back the lifestyle, and you will keep your audience a bit longer. Now, for the anything is like Amazon, branded videos, PPC videos, and things like that, you have 2 seconds. I'm sorry, but you have really 2 seconds to engage. And again, the purpose, like anything outside of listing on Amazon, the purpose of the video isn't to sell the product. It's for the customer to click and to move to your listing. So there in 2 seconds, you want to show basically that your product is what it is like in action and what problem it solves, and then get the shopper to click. And then and yeah, those videos would be maybe like 15 seconds at max. That's all you would need.
Mhm.
And I will also say another tip too for those maybe who are starting. So iPhones these days have great cameras. Like you can shoot 4K videos with iPhone. So um, you don't have to necessarily like hire guys like us if you're just starting. Get the videos; they're a great asset, and literally just make them engaging. Shoot them with iPhone. If you have like a friend or family member who could be a model, as long as they represent your audience, like as long as they represent those who you're targeting, you know, get them to hold your product, to do some action with it. you know Give people a smile, show how pleasant your product is in use, because if you aren't excited about your product, nobody else will be. So show them the product is exciting. you know uh, have the shots to the point, cut them short and sweet, and you'll be in a good position already. Now, like I said, videos are like they're like your outfit. So the more you go into building a brand, having a purpose, a brand story, yeah, you will start needing to have a Rolex watch or a tuxedo to show up to a high-end party. Like you can show up to a high-end party wearing swim trunks. So
Yeah.
yeah, so this is where agencies like ours start to come in, where we talk conceptual, when we sit down, and a lot of what we do is actually in thinking, right? People automatically think like, oh, videographers, high-end cameras, this and that. A lot of success, in my opinion, is in planning. So spending time on pre-production, ideation, concepting, taking a look at your sales numbers, take a look at your target audience, analyzing who bought your product, what successful sales looking like, taking a look at your customer journey, your sales channels, and things like that. That's where successful videos happen. And now more than ever, it's data based. So the more you can analyze your marketing, the better marketing strategy you have, the better video marketing strategy you will also have, and the more successful these videos will be. That's in my opinion a must have.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. I think you just dropped a ton of value, especially for those who have never created video before. I want to follow up with that. I think a lot of, when newer sellers are starting on a made a little bit of a tighter budget, one of the things that I have always done is I've asked for the raw footage as well. So, videographers will go and give you that final product, but pay a little bit extra and try and get all the shots they took, whether it's good or bad. And sometimes when I piece those things together, whether it's for social media, if I need to change that 3 to 5 second window, or I want to add that graphic later on, I need to extend that the length of that shot. Well, now I have that full clip. So I think that's a great, hopefully a great tip for anyone listening to try and get the most out of your money, is ask for the full video, the raw video up front. But I tend to find it works on a smaller level, but like what you said is when you want to kind of compete with the big boys, and you're entering this hyper competitive market, and you want that next level high quality shot, it starts to become a little bit of a harder thing to piece together, because you're taking shots from an iPhone plus shots from somebody else from another service plus uh, you know shots from your manufacturer, however you're doing it, you're piecing it together, and you'll start to realize that it looks a little bit off. So there's this thing called color grading that I feel like most people don't understand. When it comes to photos, we may put quote unquote filters on a photo. When it comes to color grading a video, trying to make that same temperature, the same saturation colors match from scene to scene to scene is something that most people don't think about. Then there's the aspect ratio. There's the 3D renders. There's the what you said. I really love the difference between social media. You really have the first few seconds, but on Amazon, you have a warmer audience. So you have that 6 to 8 second window. Really, really love that advice. But then taking all that into consideration and then finding that the specific model to match your target market. As you're speaking, I took a quick look at your guys' website to see what kind of models you have right now. And you literally have the full catalog of models that you need for any type of product. So just I absolutely love where I met you guys years ago to where you're at now. I encourage everyone to go and follow their social media, um, subscribe to what they're doing, because you really, even just what I do is for the last few years, I'm always watching the videos that you guys are pushing out and seeing the level of detail you take it to. And I think the other day you posted one that had just amazing light coming through onto the product and onto the scene. And I thought to myself, man, like that's super high quality, and that's literally worth spending a little bit more money on, especially if you're entering to hyper competitive niches or if you're already there. Um, so, and that I know, and this is probably the last thing I'll say. I know your experience right now, you're kind of branded around Azon Vids, it's more product photography and video. And you guys obviously have that full suite of services. But for anyone listening that's more on like the B2B side or the client services side or the personal branding side, you guys also have experience of helping really high level people there as well. And you guys are based in Texas. So one, shipping product to a US based video service provider that's high quality. You can maybe make a trip out there. Just very, very easy to use. I literally could not recommend any company more than I recommend your guys' company for professional, high quality video. So literally all in one stop shop. Um, so with that, Vlad, if you could please tell the audience where they can reach out to you guys if they're interested in learning more about you and getting in touch.
Well, Reggie, you've said a lot of different things. So on the I would say this on the picture quality, basically, uh, some people may question like, okay, well, why does this service provider charge $500, this one $50,000, and so forth? So yeah, I mean, obviously, creative services is kind of hard to price and figure out. So I feel like it's a separate podcast that we can do on, explaining sellers for e-commerce, and how to find good providers, what questions to ask them, what makes a good provider from not so good one, and things like that. But the usually the pricing is in details. So like you mentioned the video, I think I know which one. It's probably the one that we did for children's clothes recently. So for that one, we had to location scout. So we found a home that has that authentic wooden feel, because the brand is positioned on being natural, pure cotton and things like that. So we had to um, create the whole video around a family that is very conscious of, basically like having everything natural. So even the children's toys we placed there, they were made of wood. Um, and we filled up the room. So the way we created that light, we had like a $2,500 light. It's like a big aperture light with an orange filter that we took and put outside of the window. So to create our fake sun, and then we filled the room with this slight haze. So this is where you get that magic. And of course, everything was thought through. The models like you mentioned, we were doing casting, so we cast mom, we cast kids, all appropriate for this brand's target audience. And then we have set designer on staff. She was taking care of all of these details, like everything that was in that shot. It wasn't just because, it wasn't just laying around. It was brought, it was placed, it was the look was created. And this is something that I feel like, I guess, because companies, production companies are in general pretty good about, creating the look. Sometimes business people may think that, it's just a camera guy shows up, puts a couple of lights and that's it. But everything, the crew thinks of everything. And everything, just like in editing we discussed, has to cater to the final purpose. It's the same thing on the set. Everything in the frame has to cater to the purpose of like what we show in the kind of atmosphere we're trying to capture, the story we're trying to drive here. And I would say we've tried a lot of different looks in post-production. So right now we're shooting on red cameras, and red cameras, they have 16-bit color, talking about trillions of colors. So when you get that raw footage, you
It's
get like a
huge.
flat, discolored look. The file sizes are huge. We shoot 6K, then downsample.
Jeez.
But shooting in 6K allows us like, I don't know, 2,000 extra pixels. And so if we need to zoom in post to get a tighter shot, we can do it without degrading the quality. And so, to your point, it's absolutely smart to, when you work with a production company, to pay extra for that footage, because again, when you start growing, you start advertising on many different platforms. You may want to recut that. You may want to cut like a square version for social media. You may want to cut a banner for your website, A+ content and things like that. And I mean, in some instances, we even get stills out of that too. 6K stills we can definitely export and have client use that as a product photography. So,
Yeah.
and we also work a lot with agencies. And so if you're in town, if you're in Austin, Texas, would love to have you on the set. If you are
Yeah.
an agency representative, if you are a business owner, our studio is located next to Lake Travis. So yeah, we'd love to have you on the set. I guess our address is available. It's going to be available in notes and also on our website too. So you're always welcome.
Sweet. Well, thank you again. Always dropping value there. Really appreciate it. And I think if anyone's still kind of left, and like you said, trying to break that narrative, like, oh, it's just a guy with a video camera. It is really hard. The first couple of times and it's one of the other. I always tell people I was the best selling chef knife of, I forget what year it was, but it was best selling number 6 chef knife on Amazon. But it was because of your video. And I remember before I hired you guys, I literally spent like $400 in groceries because I need to get the chef knife to cook fish, chicken, vegetables, all kinds of stuff. And I had literally my best iPhone camera at the time. I bought like a whole little mini studio setup, tried to do the thing, tried to import into iMovie or pay someone else to put it together. And it just didn't come out as good. The moment I updated it with your video, I'm pretty sure it was at least 70% of the reason I jumped from like page 3 to page 1, position 6. And I know partially is in fact because of that video. And then also getting clear on those requirements that you talked about. Like we had found synergy on the placement, what types of vegetables, what kinds of shots that we needed, pulling all of that together. Really, really great. And I guess like I could say the last tip is maybe even outside of inventory, I really think the next dedicated highest level expense should go into your creative, and of your creative, it should go into your video, because your video is just that powerful. You can use it, like you said, to take snapshots of photo if you need it. Social media, DSP video ads are the highest performing ads right now for, I think, for most sellers. So excellent value there. I would encourage anyone to reach out to them, get a quote, see if it works, or if you just get the raw file and then take it from there. But couldn't put any more of a highly recommended stamp of approval, at least from my end, on Azon Vids. So I'll link down to your guys' LinkedIn. I'll also link down to your website. Highly encourage you guys check them out if you get a chance. So with that, Vlad, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, and hope to see you there in person sometime soon.
Yeah, and I would also say that if anything, it doesn't have to necessarily be like a purchase or whatever. So if you feel like you may have some questions, or feel free to just reach out and we can set up a call, and completely no pressure, just to look at your marketing materials, take a look at your strategy and see if there's any advice that we can provide. So
Excellent.
yeah, I have a heart for e-commerce, again, being in there myself. And so as an entrepreneur, just like anybody else, uh, struggled in aspects of business and things like that. So if you have a place right now where maybe you would like to up your game but unsure how, let's book a call and talk
Mhm.
about it.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, we'll do. Again, we'll put those links down below. And thanks for coming on the show.
Yes, sir. Reggie, appreciate your time.
Thanks. Take care, Vlad.
Yes, sir.